So, how well do you guys do with rest? Like, what are some practices?
Such a weird transition.
It's like, have you ever seen that video, like the guys who are like really good at driving and they like do this like burn rubber turn into a parallel parking space? That's what your transitions are like sometimes. Where it's like, we're where I wanted to end up. Don't worry about how we got here.
We're here.
We're here.
We're here.
God, do you see this? Do you see what's happening to my mom? Do you see what's happening to my friends?
Yeah.
Do you see what's happening in my community? Like, they are very simple questions, but they're in essence prayers. So I had those questions going on at 10 when I was weeping at night in my aunt's house, and they're talking about marrying me off as soon as I turn 12.
As soon as you turn 12. Are we talking on average, we're talking a man in his 20s? Are we talking older high school? I mean, like
40.
Older teenage? 40.
40, yeah. The prospect for me was
goodness.
40 years old, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Mhm.
Oh, my goodness.
And they say there's a little girl who just came here searching and wanting to get some help to stay in school. And she said, sign me up. In the dark world I was living in, she had no idea that sign me up meant basically saving my life. Someone came and said, Zahara, you now have a sponsor. And it was like someone turned on a light in my world again.
Well, welcome, listeners, here with two of my longest running podcast mates, but Jack.
No, I'm not Jack.
I just pointed wrong.
Yeah, you pointed wrong.
I guess I wanted to tell
Emphasize
you.
to me
Tell
about,
you.
yeah.
We've been podcasting together for like over 10 years.
I know. I was thinking about that when I did your podcast with Chip and Roy.
Yeah,
It's like,
over
man,
10 years.
It's been a while since I've done one of those with you, but it has been over 10 years because, I mean, I remember like when I started doing those with you, my oldest was, just a toddler.
Mm-hmm. It's really funny because
I was about to say your podcasting history is now a middle school boy. It literally is.
Man.
I don't know if he's ever told you the story of one of the podcasts that I was a part of had a pretty significant following, and we asked Jack to come and record, and little did he know it was a live recording in front of like 120 people, and he thought he was coming to like sit in a room with like three people.
Well, I got there and like I couldn't park anywhere. I was like, wow, someone's got something going on. And then I walk in the backyard because I'm not sure whose house it was, but like they had kind of like a garage, guest house barn set up in the back, and and there was a ton of people back there. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
It's a good thing you always wear a button-down shirt.
I was in a hoodie then, and it was Fat Jack, so I was even less
Fat Jack.
confident in myself than I am now.
Oh, man. Well, YouTube, what's up? And I want to welcome a new patron, and she is a dear friend and taught me sociology as a sophomore in high school. So it's Sandy Stafford, and she's on episode 4. It's called Seacoast Political Statement with Josh the Rat. She actually tells on that episode a story that I'm going to give a quick summary. So she's extremely liberal in her politics. She is what I would say, prideful feminist and really deeply loves the Lord. My dad...
Well, you mean proud feminist, not prideful feminist.
She has pride in her feminism.
Right, proud. Prideful is like a
that sounds critical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, man, for looking out.
I am.
Please don't interrupt me again.
I'm looking out for her because this is slander.
So my dad, God bless his soul, he is ultra conservative, and those two were both going to Seacoast, James Island. They knew each other, and little did my dad know that a lot of his Facebook posts that he was putting out was affecting Sandy, and it was stuff that was near and dear to her heart, and I think she felt hurt, and she definitely wouldn't mind me talking about this because she talks about it very openly, but she started to resent my dad until one day her house was flooding And my dad and another guy were like the first two people at her front door. And it was just a moment that God used in her life of, what am I getting bent out of shape of about political differences when we're in the body of Christ together. That's the most important. And I was telling Jack earlier, and they were in small group together until he died.
Aww.
And I was telling Jack earlier that I'm really proud to be a part of a church where people like that, my dad and Sandy, fellowship together.
Yeah.
Like it really, and I think that you've done a really good job expressing just how diverse this church is. You know, it really is. And she's also going to be one of our boomers in the upcoming summer intergenerational series. So 9 episodes of fun, 3 recordings with Gen Z talking, each group talking about the same subject areas. Boomers, we'll have them in here 3 times, and then we've got a Generation X and Millennial group. You are on the youngest end of Gen X, right? Like you're the youngest Gen X, I think.
Am I?
Something like that.
It's
like
45.
80, 81, 82.
80.
Is
I'm 80. Yeah.
Right. So I think 82
so I'm the
is
end
Millennial.
of Gen X.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're the entitled Millennial brat.
I'm basically the beginning of Millennial, because the Millennial Gen X divide,
Entitled,
it's like
lazy.
between 81 and 83, I think are kind of the deals, but I'm 83. And so I don't think entitled, boy, I don't want to get into generational stuff.
Hey, I'm still blown away. I saw on social media where millennials are now being targeted for being old and out of touch. I was like, what is happening? Like, I'm Gen X, and millennials are now the brunt of old jokes. Like, I saw it one time, and I was like, it's the beginning. They're going to be older now.
Well, you know, we're in our 40s now, so that's the time for the young people to be like, they've had it. Get the home ready.
I mean, I remember, and I probably said this before, so it sounds like a broken record, but I remember early in my days on staff here, we were having meetings about how to reach millennials.
Oh, yeah.
They were the youngsters.
I remember that.
All right. So if I had a top 10 or I'll say top 25 of my favorite interviews, what people are about to hear, I think this one would be in it. It is, and I've done a lot of interviews. So
of just the Seacoast podcast,
no,
or your
I'd say
whole podcasting history?
So yeah,
Wow.
it's Zahara, and so check this out. She grew up in a small village in Uganda. Life was difficult. She and her cousins had to share underwear, and there were times when they went days without food. Lost both of her parents to HIV at the age of 10. Future totally uncertain. Negotiations had already begun for her dowry. She was facing the real prospect of becoming a child bride. And people will hear me ask her, like, what age are we talking about as far as male? She's like 40s. So basically, 12 years old, being married to a 40-year-old. So everything changed when a Christian family in California began sponsoring Zahara. So basically what happens is you get a financial sponsor, you automatically are able to go to school on their dime, and it changes your status. So it completely removed her from the prospect of being a child bride. Wow. So everything changed, and then the lady who was sponsoring her went to Uganda to find her and to make sure her money was going to her, ended up adopting her. So it's her mother now, and they both live in the States. Zahara is the CEO of the nonprofit her and her mom run, oh my gosh, to help kids in Uganda.
Wow.
I mean,
That's
it's
awesome.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's neat. So people are in for a treat. I want to talk to you guys some about rest and Sabbath and how you do. But I do want to tell you guys something that I thought was funny when we were talking about generational stuff. Up until about 2 weeks ago, I was saying Chat GBT.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know. You guys never told me?
What?
Chat GBT.
Oh, boy.
My daughter looked at me and she said, "What did you just say?" I was like, Chat GBT. She was like, "That is Chat GPT."
Say what you will about millennials, but we do know what it's called.
But hey,
To be fair, do you just call it chat sometimes?
I don't.
Oh. I guess I just heard the P.
Yeah. Well, B, P, sounds similar. They rhyme. They do.
They do.
So, how well do you guys do with rest? Like, what are some practices?
Such a weird transition.
What?
It's like, if you guys, have you ever seen that video, like the guys who are like really good at driving and they like do this like burn rubber turn into a parallel parking space? That's what your transitions are like sometimes. Where it's like, we're where I wanted to end up. Don't worry about how we got here.
We're here.
We're here.
We're here. It's crazy. One thing that I learn as I get older is, because I don't have to worry about not working hard enough. If anything, my issue is going to be not resting enough. And I think as I've gotten older, I have put precious value on time when it comes to leisure, having fun, spending time with people, and actually seeing that as like a critical part of life, what life is supposed to be about. And because my former mind was always thinking, hey, what could I be getting done when I had those moments at my disposal? So I feel like maybe you could say I wasn't 100% present because I'm thinking I could be getting stuff done. Whereas now it's like I relish those moments and I'm in it.
Yeah.
Not thinking about to-do lists. All right, so I want y'all to assess yourselves.
What is the book? That's how I.
Oh, I'll get to it.
You can't just bring it.
I'll get to it in a second. Oh, you just have to know right now?
See. So some people, like
Okay.
a human, could walk into the room and be like, "I'm curious about that person." You can't just pull a book out in front of me
Yeah, but I'm going to get...
and not.
So you have to know right now.
I do actually.
So listeners, we just edited this out, but I had to get up and go fetch a book that I'm going to read out of. And I came back to my seat, and Jack has to know what it is right now. It's 30 Lessons for Living. It's tried and true advice from the wisest Americans. The wisest Americans are basically people...
I knew it.
I just need to see the list.
Wisest Americans. Who chose them?
It is thousands
Yeah,
of...
but like if it.
Oh my gosh, can you let me talk?
Could you have?
Can you let me talk?
You
It's
can't have
thousands-
the list be chosen by someone who isn't one of the wisest Americans.
There's-
How would they know?
Listen, the beauty of this book, that he calls them the experts. They're all people like 70 and 80 and 90 years old.
So it's okay.
There
All
are
right, I
people
get
who
the
have
idea.
walked in shoes way further down the field than most people. They're at the end of life, and they're reflecting back on how they would do things differently, things that they regretted, things that they are glad they did a certain way. So that's,
Yeah, I get it now.
Oh, cool. I'm glad it's approved by you now.
I didn't say it was approved. I say I understand. That's a totally different thing.
You got something you want to say?
Well, are we getting back to how do you do with rest? I mean, what's the question we're answering?
You're the one that interrupted me.
I did. So you need to get this back on the rails.
Okay, I feel you. It's my job to get us back on the rails. How do y'all do? And I'm asking you guys at an extremely busy time here at this church. But seriously, when you think rest, personally assess yourself. Are you good at it?
I'm better at it than I was. I don't know if I would say I'm good. But I am better. And if we're thinking about like what you just said, being present and not thinking about what you could be getting done, because I think I do that a lot of times, and just in daily life. Like if I'm having a conversation and I know the conversation is important, but I'm also thinking, how long is this conversation going to last? Because I'm going to do X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say getting better at that. And I've just started to build in practices that keep me present. Like my phone is perpetually on silent. And on the weekends, we use Microsoft Teams here. So I go on the day that I'm not checking in, I go offline so that I'm not getting notifications. So that wherever I am with my friends or my family, like I am present there. And so I think for me, resting looks like seeing my things that are not my job as value, like giving valuable time to things that are not my job. And so I think I'm getting better at that.
Yeah.
And like carving out time and not feeling like this is the most important thing. So.
Mm-hmm. And now that your role, I mean, it's been changed for a while now. You've been in this current role for a good little spell. But are Sundays now your Sabbath? Like you go to church and you take this whole day of rest?
I actually know I still do a Saturday Sabbath.
Okay.
Just because sometimes I'll check in on Sundays to see, and I have a team member who does have a responsibility on Sunday, but I have been intentional about I want 24 hours of not checking anything work related. And so I find that it is easier for me to do that. Like from Friday to Saturday, and then like Saturday night, I literally will try to like stop before the sun sets on Friday, so that I have 24 hours, and then before I go to bed Saturday night, I'll check in to see if like anything came through or campuses are working on Sunday or they might need to do something. So I will usually try to check in then. But
Those 24 hours, are there other things non-church related that you stay away from?
non-church that I stay away from?
Yeah, so I'll use myself as an example. My 24 hours, and sometimes it'll start on a Friday night and on a Saturday night, but I will literally set my clock for a 24-hour countdown. And during that time, I don't do anything productive that is like on my to-do list. Like obviously, if I'm with the kids and I'm making dinner, that's productive. But anything that is work related, side hustle related, I do not work on it. Household chores, I'm typically not going to do it during my Sabbath because that's something that it's like, I have to do such and such. So it is basically putting everything off to the side. And, I try to be more aware of God, given that everything else is put to the side. Like I can kind of focus a little bit more. But that's what I mean as far as everything else. Like
I am not hardline with that. Like sometimes it makes sense to do things on Saturday that are like house work related if the weather's good and something needs to be done. So I wouldn't say that I'm hardline with
so you didn't pass the Pharisee test.
I would absolutely not pass it. Also because like for me, even some things might be like grocery shopping, or like if I'm doing stuff with friends, but it also is work. Like, and I even think about, I'm part of our women's hike ministry. That's not my job. If I didn't work here, I would still be a part of that. And so for me, doing things with the hike team or like working on things for the hike doesn't feel like work, but it's something I enjoy. But someone else might say it's work, and so I would do that on a Saturday. So yeah.
Jack, how do you do, my friend?
Well, so not I want to be careful I say this because I work there. Not working is easy. Because I compartmentalize so easily, and so that like when I leave here, unless there's something that I know I need to, something unfinished, whether it's a message or a conversation I need to tie up or whatever, it's very easy for me to leave this place, leave Teams on my phone, and not think about anything work related. So like not working is actually easy. It's easy for me to turn it off, but not working is not the same thing as resting. Because it's easy to waste time and not rest. And so for me, like I'll tell you, like the most restful week of my year, and I've been able to do this, this is going to be year 4. I just kind of started firming up plans where we got family friends who have a lake house, and I've been going there kind of once a year for a week by myself, and it's kind of a writing week where I try to get a ton of writing done. I mean, I'm writing every day about 7 hours a day, but it's the most refreshing week of my year. Like that is a restful week, even though I'm doing something that is very productive. That is, in some ways, like it is one of the best weeks of my year because I'm able to come away from it like completely recharged and refreshed, even though from a certain point of view, I'm working really hard. And so it's like you can, I also like video games, but if I spend like a day doing that, like that's not the same thing. Just because I'm not working doesn't mean I'm resting. And
So that wouldn't be restful, playing video games?
it can be, but it can also just be a way of killing time and wasting time. And that's not necessarily restful at all. And so anyway, so Trent's like, how do I do with it? It's tough. Like Lynne was saying, like, I don't know that you can Sabbath on a Sunday if you work at a church. I don't know how I don't know how a person could do it. Because even for me, I don't have any responsibilities on Sunday for my job, in a sense. Because like creative team is mostly during the week. We make stuff for the weekend, but we're not necessarily making the weekend itself happen, if that makes sense. But when I'm there, I'm still thinking constantly about how that looks. Oh, hey, that wall got installed this week. Okay, how does that look? That looks better than I thought. Doesn't look quite like I thought. How is the video working? It's like, oh boy, is this the right version? I don't remember this. Or oh, this isn't playing where I thought it would. It's like anything I attend, even if there's nothing new we made for that weekend, I'm evaluating constantly. And so I just feel like whenever I'm here, I'm in work mode, even if it's Sunday for worship, like Easter. My family's attending, I think the last service. Maybe I'll be able to attend that one after the 5 we've done or whatever. Maybe I'll be able to attend that one and not do that. But it's really hard for me not to be at church and be in a work mindset.
Bless your heart, man.
And so, it's the nature of I think the seat I sit in part. Which is, if you're responsible for things that happen on the weekend, I don't think you can turn that off. And so
you may need to go to another church on Sundays.
That could be problematic.
But make sure you're checking Teams in case something happens.
Right.
All right. So these experts, these 70, 80, 90-year-old folks, I had to bring this to this discussion on rest. So the author says that work occupies Americans' lives for 6 or more decades, and Americans work a lot. One sign of our workaholic culture: in a given year, around 574 million vacation days go unused. That equals over 5,500 working lifetimes in a single year. Each year, the average worker spends over 1,800 hours on the job and sometimes longer, working extra shifts or at a second job to make ends meet. This is what was profoundly impactful to me, and I actually had a sit-down conversation with my kids after dinner to tell them this. So I'll read this and then I'll explain. It says, many bright young people who would make wonderful teachers, social workers, or artists are seduced by the salaries and bonuses of the financial industry. By the time they finish college, they are on a career trajectory that takes on a life of its own. What's this word?
I can't see it from here, man. I'm a millennial.
Once in, I know Lynne would know too, but I just ensconced in a field, especially one that pays well. It requires heroic efforts to make the dramatic step of shifting gears, and so the years go by. So the experts, these older folks, have a real problem with this scenario. The view from the end of lifespan is straightforward. Time well and enjoyably spent trumps money anytime. So out of the thousands of interviews, not one person, not one said, I worked a job that I didn't really like that much, but it paid big bucks and I'm happy I did it. Every single person that worked a job for the money and it wasn't something that was satisfying to them as a person, none of them were happy about it. All of them regretted it. Every single one says, take less money, do something that you enjoy. And that may sound like common sense wisdom, but I think it's extremely a critical thing for me to teach my kids, because I hear them talking about, what's going to pay well, and I want to make a certain amount of money. It's like first and foremost, something that you enjoy. And I've thought about how many gifted teachers we likely will never see the light of day because it just doesn't pay well. It's just a hard profession to make a living in, Are y'all surprised that not one person said?
Just the state of chasing things doesn't surprise me. Like if you go after the job that pays the most but you don't like it, there's always going to be a need for more, to like perform to a certain level to keep that job, to make the raise, and then once it's like they said, once you're in it, it's really hard to jump off of a treadmill that's going, so you're like, now I have this certain standard of life and I can't maintain it unless I have this kind of job. And so you're like trapped in this circle unless you have the courage to say, I'm going to give this stuff up, or what I thought, or this money, this love of money, for what actually matters.
Yep. All right. Well, it is Zahara McCoy. She's CEO of a nonprofit that you're going to hear a little bit more about. Her story, it's pretty unbelievable. Thank you guys for talking about rest and making fun of me a little bit. It makes me feel comfortable.
Good. I'm glad.
So we're super excited. I know when I got the email about your story, there's sometimes when I get an email about a potential guest, I'm like, yep, that's not even a question. Definitely want to have her on here. So looking forward to it. Thank you for being here with us. And I did a little bit of digging, and
Yes.
I found where 70 to 75% of Americans are considered middle class or higher, and the middle class is actually getting smaller, and it's not because people in the middle class are getting poorer, they're actually getting richer and getting into higher income brackets. So you have some perspective that I think all middle class Americans do not have, a lived experience that we have very little context for. So I want to hear, you mind sharing how you grew up and just a little bit, a lot of your story, honestly. But before we do that, I want you to assess some of my parenting. So do you think that this is crazy? So my kids are 20, 18, 16, 14. But when they were younger, I really wanted them to know, hey, how you are living. And we weren't first world rich, never were. I think they saw a lot of their peers have things that they didn't have, but they also lived very well, But I wanted them to see that there were kids around the world that live nothing like they live, have none of the things that they have. And I would literally go on Google and show them pictures of other kids and their lived experiences. Do you think that's crazy or kind of exhibitionist on my part? Or would you say, a decent move as a parent?
Yeah. I think most parents, they do the best they can with where they are and what they have. So that's number one. As a parent now of 3 little babies, mine are not, you're way ahead of me. Mine are 8, 6, one is starting 6, and 3 years old.
Wow.
I'm in the midst of it. I'm in the midst of that, figuring things out and trying to shape and steward what God has blessed me with. So I would say everybody does the best they can. But one thing is to show and tell versus going out. I've really found that my experience does not permit me to use so much of my spoken words rather than to act out what my children would like to see and exemplify. So even when we talk about, I don't share with them often about mom's story. I really don't. What I do is I say, pack your bags, we're going to Uganda. And we go to Uganda, and going through the villages, they ask me questions, especially my 8-year-old. He's very, very compassionate. He feels things very much so. So as he's kind of experiencing it, he's bringing up very insightful questions to me that I don't even, more oftentimes I'm not prepared to answer. But I know that I go back to the scripture and I try to say, what do you think God thinks about that? Kind of pose the question back to him. And then he has to go from that standpoint and try to kind of dig through it and try to rationalize the difference, the discrepancies and the unfairness of it all. And he oftentimes come back home pretty heartbroken. And then that kind of transforms himself into what he is able to do with his friends. Like he'll share. He's very comfortable sharing his heritage, is what he calls it. My heritage is from Uganda. The children there don't have much to eat.
Oh,
Guys,
wow.
we really do have to clean our plates. It doesn't matter if it's just the
Wow.
vegetables. Yeah, and you hear him, but it's not.
Wow.
Yeah, it was not like a sit down moment and say, Mom, wants you to know such and such. It's my mom that recently said, my mom is a boss, but she takes care of children, and you're like, how did you get that? Where did you even, but it's their little eyes and their little ears see and hear so much and take in so much. They absorb. It's like a sponge.
And it's changed his heart. It
changes his heart completely.
Yeah. Our oldest was able to go to a developing country on missions, but I'm glad you said that, because I've got another daughter that's graduating from high school, so we'd probably have to figure out how to get her to a third world country later on, maybe in college. But I got two boys that we could easily go on a trip. For sure. Well, tell us a little bit about your story growing up in Uganda, a small village. And I mean, I was reading you and your cousins had to share underwear, and there were times you went days without food.
Yes.
Tell us some of your story. What's your earliest memory?
Earliest memory, though, is when I was 5 years old. I had two older brothers, and I always want to keep up with them. So their activity of most days would be, after they do their chores, run around, go and climb mango trees and eat those mangoes. That was like the kind of like mischievous thing to do in our village. So, and usually the people that own the mango tree would not want us to go climb it. So you have to find creative ways and pathways to get up there, get the mango tree, and then run for your life and then eat it. So I just remember those days. I actually just asked my brother about that. He said, I used to tell you, you're not a boy. Why are you following us? And I used to want to do it so much. But anyway, so that's...
That's awesome.
But anyways, but that's kind of the fun part of it. And it was a very small village, like the typical village of huts and mud, bricks for those who are well off, and then the iron sheets on top. There is no what here people call infrastructure or drainage systems. You just kind of create pathways. Whatever sticks is what the road becomes. And so when it rains, it floods all over the village. People stay inside their houses. And then you do dig what they call gardening for what you eat is what you make basically outside, or someone will give you a little plot somewhere and you can rent it out and then you grow your food and that's what you eat. So life felt very simple, really, in essence.
Real quick, was meat a part of y'all's intake? And if so, like what would happen if somebody killed a big animal? Like you can't refrigerate it. So how did that look as far as meat consumption?
That's a feast. We'll call that a feast.
Gotcha.
Oftentimes that only happen on special occasions where there's celebrations or a wedding or somebody was getting baptized. Things like that. Meat was not a usual, it's a luxury, is what we call this luxury meal. And it's something that you share. As a matter of fact, when we were younger, we were taught that you eat everything off the plate and then save the meat last to really enjoy it, because it's such a precious thing.
Gosh, this is so good. I love this. All right, keep going.
Yeah. But anyways, but the little village was called Mbiko, and grew up with a mom and dad, two older brothers. But my dad died from HIV/AIDS early on at 7 years old. And then my mother became very ill shortly after that, also to HIV/AIDS. At that time, the pandemic was sweeping sub-Saharan Africa. So oftentimes, really, the deaths were, the cause was the HIV that would affect the body. And then you attract other illnesses because your immune system is broken down. And that's how people were dying. But they were dying at a very fast pace. Like someone who would be alive and very well today, you would next week or so find out they're gone. And it became such a normal thing in our life that we're expecting to be at a burial every single day.
Gosh.
And then the next day, wake up, go back to school, like that, until it came knocking on our door. So at 9...
How did it spread so much? Like, what was the main way of it spreading?
These are desperate communities. Abject poverty does a lot of things to people.
Yeah.
There's no honoring of union, and people,
Gotcha.
fend for themselves. Prostitution was on a rampant.
Gotcha.
Just little money goes a long way for families. So, and also people did not understand how you contracted it. There was not much
Right.
education then, so they just didn't know. It
Right.
was, that's before PAPFA. Actually.
Yeah. Hope that wasn't an insensitive question. I was like, oh wow,
Oh, no.
that's crazy spreading. I didn't
Yeah,
want to wrap my mind around that. That makes sense though. That makes sense. So you were how old when your parents were both gone?
So dad at 7, and then mom shortly got sick, and then she also passed away at 10 for me when I was 10 years old. But one of the things that is, I would say, that I learned the most during that childhood time, for the season of hardship, was taking on a responsibility of a caregiver at age 9. That truly broke me. Those are parts of my childhood that I look back on, reflect, and I wonder now. My son is almost 10, and having to care for me in my, the ending of my journey here on earth.
Right.
And I can't fathom it. Like, I just really, as a mom now, can't fathom it. But I was right in the middle of it. So, her illness.
Like a deeper question on like a mental health level. Do you think back on young Zahara and kind of breaks your heart? 'Cause I know.
It does.
Yeah. Because I had some mental health issues with depression and anxiety as a super, super young age. And I didn't have any words for it. I just knew that life was really, really hard. And I look back on that young man and my heart kind of breaks because it's like, wow, you were, so that makes sense. I could not imagine thinking of your younger version losing your parents at that early of an age. Wow.
Yeah. And losing them is one thing, but caregiving for the person that you've looked up all your life, who in essence was someone I felt worked hard, very ambitious, self-reliant, beautiful, able-bodied, was a go-getter or entrepreneur. She was everything against the train of what our culture was. As far as the definition of a woman, what she's supposed to do. She did not fit the mold of the African woman category. She was very much so try to make ends meet, right? She stepped into that role and became the sole provider of our family once our dad died. So to now see her also break down to where I'm caring for her, taking her to the bathroom. She's no longer verbal. It really did something to me that I can never explain. I can never, ever explain. And so that young Zahara never once imagined, ever, in those moments of hardship, I could never imagine I'll be sitting here telling this story to people.
I know people are about to hear, what you're up to as a CEO, and it's just, it's unreal. As a youngster, there's no way you could wrap your mind around even living in America. I bet just how different, that is. So when you think back, was little Zahara consumed with fear, sadness? Was there like some level of bravery where you're just like, I just have to, because a lot of people say young kids are more resilient than we give them credit for. Like, thinking back on your younger version, like what were your emotions?
Survival. I was in survival mode. The biggest thing, your podcast, I love the name of it. What you don't hear on Sundays is that children end up carrying so much more. The children are carrying, around the world, parts of the world are carrying things that we adults ourselves struggle carrying.
Yeah.
And that was the little Zahara. Now, in hindsight, as I look back on her, I'm thinking, how did you do it? And that's, as adult now, we need to put that in perspective. How can the children bear so much difficulty? And we ourselves, when we're going through it as adult level, we're struggling. It's difficult. It breaks us. It breaks us. And so that's some of the things I look back on and think through. Yeah. But what is interesting is in those days too, when I didn't have faith, right? I felt like there's so much hurting around me, pain around me. I remember thinking about my not in the sense of like my relationship with God, but like who do you turn to? Who do you turn to? Because at that point, you're not really asking like theology questions, like, oh, the beginning of the world. No, you are actually asking practical questions that are going to help you survive. Like, God, do you see this? Do you see what's happening to my mom? Do you see what's happening to my friends?
Yeah.
Do you see what's happening in my community? Like, they are very simple questions, but they're in essence prayers.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And so I had those questions going on at 10 when I was weeping at night in my aunt's house, and they're talking about marrying me off as soon as I turn 12.
As soon as you turn 12.
Yeah.
So that and that's because you were parentless, like you were going to be a child bride because you did not have any parents. That's just how your village handled that.
That's right. That's correct.
And are we talking on average? We're talking a man in his 20s. Are we talking older high school? I mean, like
40.
older teenage? 40.
40, yeah. The prospect for me was
goodness.
40 years old. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
And the only thing that was buffered for me was because, I was 10 and they were waiting until I'm 12. When at 12, you can then start bearing children. So the whole, they call it discussion of dowry in other parts of the world when they're negotiating what value a young girl is to starting a family with the prospect person that will marry them.
Gosh.
Yeah, life became very, very scary.
Yeah. So how long were you in that mode of dreading turning 12 because there was a game changer that happened from a believing family in California? How did this all happen?
Yeah. So 2 years of agony, 2 years of practical questions to God. Get me out of here. What are you, what am I going to do? Where are you?
Yeah.
What's my life?
2 years of pain that no kid should have had to experience.
Yeah, that's the length there. But little did I know that an obscure Holy Spirit led move I did, I believe was 9 months prior to that, when my mom was still very ill. I enlisted my name with a little community-based organization that was enlisting orphans. And in a moment of desperation, I had asked my mother if this is the end road for her. And in so few words, she confirmed that yes. So I had to go and look for this organization and beg them to put my name on that list. Even though at that time it was really the end of the line, but she was still alive and I was holding out hope. And I was prayerful. I was still the one that was saying to her, I believe you're going to fight through this. But she one day just told me, no, go put your name down. And that's the day I actually discovered I was going to be an orphan. God. So 9 months, I had done that. And then 9 months later, a knock on the door came. And Zahara McCoy had decided to sponsor me. She did not know anything about me. She had no idea who I was. But the Lord spoke to her heart and she decided out in California, she had read a little bit of an article from a magazine that described the death of a continent due to the AIDS pandemic. And it drew a curiosity in her. She started Googling around and it just kept bringing her back to Uganda. And it's from there that she then emailed this community-based organization and said, I'm just so heartbroken for what's happening over there. What can I do to help? And they said there's a little girl who just came here searching and wanting to get some help to stay in school. And she said, sign me up. She had no idea what that sign me up meant. In the dark world I was living in, she had no idea that sign me up meant basically saving my life. And so the news came and they said, you now have a sponsor. It was very basic. It was like someone came and said, Zahara, you now have a sponsor. And it was like someone turned on a light in my world again.
Jeez. Almost, literally the hand of God reaching out to you through another person.
That's why I tell people, he uses people. He does. That's his avenue, is through us, through individuals. And honestly speaking, he doesn't pick the people who are the most refined. He just picks the willing hearts. My mother now, who was first my sponsor, she just had a willing heart. She had no idea where Africa, Uganda, what the AIDS pandemic was doing to millions of orphans left behind. She had no inkling around the depth of this issue. All she knew was there's a little girl that needed to be loved, and she can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So she did.
And so her sponsorship, what did that do for you immediately? And then how did you end up in America?
So immediately it was a lifeline, because then I immediately was able to enroll back into school. And in Ugandan culture, a young girl who's educated is of value. Then you immediately get protection around you. You cannot, therefore, be married off.
Gotcha.
That's what it did.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So then so her sponsorship, then the requirements was I would get uniforms. I had scholastics, a meal at school. Mind you, this was something that when I say meal at school, people don't understand. They just think, oh, you get a meal at school. No. When I lived with my aunt, the days you mentioned, we went 2 days without food. Just drank water. And that water had to be fetched from a mile away at a well. So you're hungry, but you have to go find water in order to sustain yourself. So a meal a day at school saved me from hunger. Yeah. Because this was something that happened often in those 2 years. We would go without meals, and 2 days was pretty typical. That's how long you can sustain your body without eating anything. So she then started sponsoring me. Communications happened. We started talking. They asked me to write some letters to her. I did not speak any English at that time, but I had someone who would help me interpret. Little did I know that she was going to then show up in Uganda and try and find out where I am. Is what she's doing really coming to fruition, or is it just, a make-believe? That's how the whole journey kind of started. It's just her saying, hey, God, I know there's a little girl out there. I know I'm doing what I can here, but is it really reaching her? And it was really that question of curiosity, not doubt, but curiosity.
So she came all the way to see for herself.
Yes, she did. She did. And so there it began. She came, she got to learn about me. She got to learn about my village. She got to see what the AIDS pandemic was doing to the community. But one of the basic things that she asked me, and I remember very young, she was just kind of looking through my grade report cards and said, you're doing really well, Zahara. And what would you think about coming to study in America? Very generally like that. It was like a question of...
And tell me your age again at this time.
Now I'm 12.
12, okay.
Yeah. And I just looked at her like, what? We had heard about America before, but if you asked me to point it on a map, I would not have been able to. I just knew, it's a grand place out there. It's like someone saying it's heaven. You'd like to come to heaven.
You learned soon that it's not actually heaven here.
Heaven, I know. But to my childhood ears, it was like, what? And she sounded very casual. How would you think about going to study in America?
Jeez.
I looked at her like, yes, of course. I have nothing left here for me. And so I didn't know she was going to quickly go through the paperwork, get my her guardianship of me and secure those things for me. But in the midst of all of that, the community around me, this is the first thing that has ever happened in my village where a young child is going to now travel as far as America. Most people don't even know where America was. So it's like, would she ever come back? If she comes back, would her skin be Caucasian now? Like, people did not know what to believe of that. And I was not to say anything until the day came that I'm to travel. Because my mother, my mother's sister, my aunt, had cautioned me. She said, there's witchcraft. And people don't wish each other well when everybody's in destitute. Be careful. This is your one-way ticket. So I was very on a hush-hush. I was not supposed to even tell who I consider my best friend that I'll be traveling to America. until the day came. And I remember my sponsor saying, it's time to go. And I literally got up with the same clothes I've probably lived in forever. And she looked at me and she didn't even have words. She just said, so we traveled. We had to go through Kampala, the capital city of Uganda. And we stopped at some mall somewhere. And she said, please go ahead and shop, get something to wear, get more than one thing. And I remember walking around. It's my first time ever in a big retail shop with massive of clothes. And she's saying, go at it. I picked one pair of matching jean set pants and jean set jacket. And then I said, this is good enough for me. So she'd say, put this on. And then we continued to the airport. Got there. Everything was brand new. Everything was a learning curve. From the bathrooms to the lights to how big the plane is to where I'm going, the imagination of where I'm going, I have no idea what to expect. I don't even have a reference point.
You're in a different world, really. I mean, you're just experiencing a different world.
Completely. But even there, to me, I felt like, I'm just getting safety. I'm not going to be married off. Like, it was like somebody just taking me away from what could have been, which is to me the worst case scenario is to be married off, because I've seen friends who were married off and how their life was. And it was just not good. So for me, it was her rescuing me from that. That's the only reference point I had.
Yeah.
I had no idea that what she's trying to take me into was a life of opportunities. Like, she's opening up my world to all these opportunities, what could be, what God wanted me to be. I did not know any of that. I didn't think through that part of it. I just felt like it's like taking someone from a bad situation to now protecting them. But what I didn't even know beyond that was the abundance of stuff, where you never felt like I truly, coming from where everything was scarcity, to even your own food and medicine and everything. You had to work so hard for it, to now opening a fridge and it's food. Stepping into a shower, where did this water come from? Everything was very easily accessible. And even to families who may live, like you say, you talked about the middle class and higher class. At this point in my childhood mindset, there is no difference between those classes because they all have these basic things already. And so to me in America, there was no poverty, really. Mm-hmm. Because even the poor people had food stamps. I remember my mom sharing some of that stuff with me at the time. I don't know, it's become very complex now, but there's a fallback system in place. It may be faulty, but there is a fallback system, which Uganda did not have at all.
Gotcha. Gracious. And so one thing that when you were telling your story is just how twisted humanity is, that Zahara was limitlessly worthy of God's love, and you had so much value, but it wasn't recognized in society until you were sitting in a schoolroom. It's just a twisted humanity. Like you didn't change. You were just sitting in a schoolroom now, and so there was a higher, almost like dollar value to you. It's just,
It's crazy.
Gosh. Okay. So you are, as we like to say, the rest is history. You studied at George Washington University, developed a desire to go back to Africa, and now you're CEO of Children of Grace, and it's a Christian nonprofit working in Uganda, and you're impacting thousands of children through medical aid, education, and mentoring. I want you to tell us a little bit about how this all came about, and maybe just give us a little more insight on the beauty that God's working through this. But I'll tell people that they can go to childrenofgrace.com to check it out for yourselves. But tell us a little bit about this. How'd this all come about?
So the CBO that I enlisted in, that my sponsor, and who's now my mother, found me through eventually broke off and it stopped basically operating. And so at that point, my mother had no ways of channeling any more support there. And remember, I still had friends, I still had family, I still had neighbors who are still affected by the AIDS pandemic. Most of them are still orphans. So when I moved here, it's like I moved here, but my heart was still in Uganda. And my mother was walking through with me, that experiencing that responsibility in essence, or I don't want to call it guilt. I never felt it was guilty. It was not a guilt where you just feel like, oh, I have to do something. I feel so guilty for it. It was more like I I was rescued for something. I didn't know at that time what it was. It was that I was rescued to remember where I come from. To remember. Not to feel, oh, this is good. This is a good life now. Forget everything. It was the moment I stepped here is almost like it reignited the fire in me to even care more of the people I left behind. It always felt like I left behind somebody. And so through that pain, I'll have weekly phone calls to Uganda, and then I'll get off absolutely just broken. For months, I would be quiet, and my mother would watch me just not want food, not want to go with a backpack full of stuff to school. And I would share with her, I just feel like this is too much. It's too much for me to sit here and pretend like all is okay when I know that even an inch of this over there would be a world of difference for another child like me. So those are the questions I started posing to my mother, and she just felt like, okay, well, what can we do about it, Zahara? So she started a 501c3 the year I arrived in America. And she named it Children of Grace, and I was child number 1. She literally had COG number for me is number 1. So the journey began and started with me and then 2 other boys she had got to learn of on her first visit to Uganda as well, through a young lady named Grace who also passed away from HIV/AIDS, and she had become friends with her. So her passing away really impacted my mother. In honor of Grace, she named the organization Children of Grace.
Gotcha.
And then all the children come in with Children of Grace. So it started like that. And I would advise my mother on a lot of cultural nuances, how money is viewed in Uganda, when helping hurts, all those cultural dynamics that a lot of mission work and ministry work kind of is confronted with, but without reference point to someone who comes from there. I was very outspoken. I could read the room and help her realize this is not going to such and such. And so I really was pulled in right at a very young age, but her desire was never that I would take it up or do it. She just kind of really wanted me to dream and become whoever God intended for me to be. So I never felt a pressure of being pushed back into Uganda. It was me who actually was constantly telling Mom, what can we do more? How can we be more servant over there? Like it became to a point where the first time I could return back to Uganda, I was 16 years old. And I remember some of my closest friends saying, we don't really know much about you. You don't really talk much about Uganda. And I said, well, why don't you come with me? See for yourself. Some things are much harder to explain.
Right.
It's much easier to show you. And graciously enough, they said, yeah, they'll come. So at 16, my first ever return visit home, I went with my 2 best friends. And I remember that flight there thinking, what do I expose them to? What do I not? There was a sense of wanting to protect them and shield them from seeing too much, but at the same time wanting them to really get to know that side of me. And so I remember we said, well, first thing we want to do when we get there is community service. Go and serve somebody in the community. And the social workers there said, well, there is a family that really could use your help. She didn't really give us much background on our family.
Yeah.
So we end up going and we get out. It's a little brick house, mud around it. We go inside. There's 5 children. And the oldest was 15. The youngest was 2. So we look around searching for the parents. And there were no parents. It was a child-headed household.
Whoa.
And I just remember thinking, wow, this, when you say come back home, God, this is what you wanted me to come back home to. And I actually even asked questions of like, why this situation? Why the first place we go, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
It was so in your face that you couldn't turn around. You couldn't say, this is too, it was like, no, I want you to see this and be confronted with it. And mind you, I'm with my friends too, who had never experienced such a thing. So for the first time, they saw all my walls come down because I was a colossal mess. And I was on the ground. I was on the ground holding the 2-year-old, weeping at the graveyard of her parents, and asking God the same questions: why them? They will never know love, unconditional love of having a parent, someone to defend you, to keep you safe, to worry about your future. I was like literally crying and saying and then holding her. And then all of a sudden a calmness came over me. It's like, rise up, Zahara. I brought you here to show you that you too can be, for Mercy is her youngest, for Mercy, what Marianne was for you. And I was like, oh, at 16? Like, at 16, I can be this? Okay. So I really got up, and I remember like taking Mercy back to where we were and showing her to my mother and saying, she's now my sponsored child. My mom goes, okay. It was like weird in that moment, but it was like, and then I said, and then what more? So Children of Grace was birthed through what I call the sacrificial action of faith that my mother took me on. She came in critical moments where I had no one, and she stepped in. She showed me truly what God means when he chooses us and when he loves us. He selects us.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Marianne was able to help me understand of my God. Not as God the Father up there that I can't access, but God through someone that is going to be there to defend me, to love me, to choose me, to see me. That's number one, what sponsorship did for me. But then number two, it really fueled me to start worrying and thinking about somebody else, because I know what it feels like when someone comes in. The miracle is not that our hardships disappear. The miracle is that someone would meet us in the middle of our pain.
Yeah.
That's the miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And so Children of Grace is pretty much, that's the foundation of it, is two people, mother, daughter, started out building that trust, learning God as the Father, and then trying to replicate that love, a sacrificial love, and then take on not just one, but take on a second one and a third one. Before you know it, it now is serving 700 children, and 3,500 have gone through our program.
And does that entail the sponsorship and sometimes also adoption, or what are y'all focusing on?
The biggest thing for us is sponsorship, because
Gotcha.
sponsorship opens up the doors for opportunities within Uganda. And even me, I was adopted to America, but truly, I'm often back home because I feel like it's needed. We're needed there.
Mm-hmm.
The moment you are able to show a child the world of opportunities and potential they have, instead of removing them, if there's ways to help them stay in their home country or stay in their community, they then are able to become the change agents of their community.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough to remove that talent out or that blessing out of there. For me, it was unique in the sense that I never said, "Oh, I'll turn my back on, my people." But some do, and that's okay. That's a choice, a life of choice. But truly, to me, Uganda currently, less than 15% of the Ugandan children do not go through school and finish school.
Yeah.
Less than 15%.
Wow.
Think about that number.
Yeah.
And it's the largest, youngest population in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. Well, I'm assuming that people can just go to childrenofgrace.com and sign up to sponsor and support what you're doing and all of that. So,
Yes.
your husband, let me see if I can pronounce his name. Is it Najib?
Yes.
Did I say it right? Najib?
Yeah, you did. Yes, you did.
And then what's your 3 children's names again and their ages?
So we have Isa. Isa is 8. Arya, who's turning 6.
Yeah.
And Seth, who's 3 years old and a complete Evel Knievel guy who just climbs everything and tears down.
Yeah. I know those type. I've got one of those. I'm glad he's not doing that now at 15, he grew out of it. Hey, now that you've said your whole story and we've learned so much about you, and I'll edit it out if you don't want to answer this, but how old are you? Like how long ago did all of that happen? You're how old now?
I'm 35.
35.
It's okay. You can share. Yeah. I'm proudly 35.
Yeah.
Proudly. But
so
it's over 20 years
ago. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a delight just to get to know you and hearing your story. It's just, it's a win of a conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, it's been a blessing. Thank you so much for having me. Just please be blessed. Thanks for having this platform. Continue doing God's work. Speak life into the new generations coming up. And I'm really, truly blessed to be here. So thank you for sharing.
Yep, we will keep trying.
You've been listening to Seacoast Church's Things You Won't Hear on Sunday podcast. We are now on Instagram. Go to instagram.com/SeacoastPod for your one-stop shop to interact with this podcast and chime into the conversation. You can also be a patron of the podcast and receive exclusive content and live feeds of our recordings. All of your support goes towards Seacoast ministry efforts in local prisons. All of this information is in the show notes. Thanks for listening.